Welcome back to another episode of the FOGDOG exclusive. I've had a few requests in the past to do a video pretty much where I talk about how to improve your 1500 meter times. And so in today's video, I'm gonna talk about my year by year 1500 meter progression. And then I'm gonna go into a bit more detail about how I improved my times year by year. And then I'm gonna finish off by commentating properly on my 340 PB 1500 that I ran in June 2019. So to start off with, I just want to say that I'm obviously not a proper coach. I do actually have a coaching qualification, but any advice I do give in this video, it may not work for you in the same way it worked for me. So just be careful in the way you go about kind of implementing any advice I give if you do plan on kind of taking some of the advice on board and, you know, doing some of this sort of sessions that I've done in order to improve your 1500 times. Just because these are sessions that have worked for me, but everyone is different and so they might not work for you. So just be careful with that. As well, just before we start the main part of the video, it should be noted that obviously a lot of this progression happens naturally through just developing. So I'm going to start by talking about my 1500 PB when I was 15 and go on to talk about my 1500 PB now that I'm 21. And so obviously in that time, 6 years, I have developed quite a lot. I was quite a small 15-year-old, and so it should be noted that definitely a lot of this improvement is down to just pretty much growing up. But in terms of relative performance by age group, I definitely have improved a lot since I was 15, not just through growing up. So anyway, with that, let's get straight into the main part of the video. I'm going to talk about my PBs year by year, and then I'm going to talk about some key sessions that have worked for me. And then to finish off the video, I will be commentating properly on my 340 1500 meter PB. Alright, so we're going to start this year by year 1500 meter progression in 2014 when I was 15 years old. And in 2014, I ran a 420 1500. Which placed me 8th in Queensland. So it was a solid time, nothing unbelievable. I think 420 for a 1500 is equivalent to probably about 440-ish for the mile at the age of 15. So it was solid, nothing crazy, but a decent start for a 15-year-old. The following year, when I was 16, I got my time down to 401, which got me 3rd in Queensland. So I've gone from 420 and 8th at States when I was 15, to 401 and 3rd at States when I was 16. The following year, when I was 17, in 2016, I ran 359, and then in 2017, at the age of 18, I ran 354. Now, at this point, some of you may have seen my series, Unfinished Business. I talked about how I was trying to make the World Junior 1500 meter team. And so in 2018, at the age of 19, I ran a World Junior qualifier. I ran 347 for the 1500, which was my PB for that year. Now, last year, when I was 20, I ran my PB that still is my PB to this day in England in June, 340.43. So pretty much over that 5-year period from 2014 to 2019, I went from being a 420 1500 runner, which is about a 440 mile equivalent, to being a 340 1500 runner, which is about a 358 mile equivalent, even though I've never actually officially broken 4. I've got a 4:00.77 mile PB. Hopefully, breaking 4 coming soon, but we'll see. I need to get in a mile race. So how did that progression happen? Obviously, as I said at the start of the video, a lot of it is down to purely developing. But while development has obviously played a big part, there is also a lot more to it than that. So let's get straight into that. Alright, so that first year of progression from 15 to 16, 420, 1500 to 401, I would pretty much put purely down to joining the on-track running group coached by Ben Norton. So when I was 16, I got my first coach in Ben Norton and joined the on-track running group. And pretty much in that first year, I went from not really training at all and just kind of doing my own thing, maybe running a 5K at the weekend and doing my races, to training properly and, you know, having a proper coach and a set program. So in that year for me, I was very speed focused. I did get up to about 60 kilometers a week or approaching 40 miles. But as I was saying, we were a very speed focused group. So with that, I was doing 3 sessions a week, 3 workouts a week, that were mostly speed focused. So I think we'd go to the track twice a week. And then we did a hill session once a week as well. So at the age of 16, that was just really good to kind of get me properly into running. I'd never really had a scheduled program for running before, and so that really got me quite fit, ready to race, and it got some good speed into my legs as well that would definitely help in the coming years. Now, from that point, when I was 16 years old, I stayed in that group right up until I went to America. And so pretty much the sessions stayed similar, and it all kept working really quite well. So for me, the biggest things that changed over those years with the on-track running group were, as I said, I developed a lot more. I think just the consistency of running a lot more than I had been was really starting to pay off. And the speed focused sessions were really good as well. So I actually can't really stress that enough. If you're still in school, you know, if you're 14 through to 18, even 19, I would really try and focus on speed. And now that I'm a bit older, the mileage has started to come in. So over those years with the on-track group, I did pick up my mileage to about 50 miles a week, and I found that this worked really quite well for me. I definitely wasn't overdoing it. You know, 50 miles a week when I was 18, 19, even 20 at the start of last year was pretty good. And I think I did actually get up to about 90 or even 100 kilometers for a few weeks at the start of 2019, just trying to build up a bit more of a base before our track season. Now, that track season finished up in April 2019, and I ran a PB of 3:44 in my national 1500 meter heat to make the Australian Open National 1500 final, which I came last in, but that doesn't matter. I made the final. That was my goal. I ran a PB. I ran 3:44 in my heat to qualify for the final. And so pretty much by qualifying for the national final, even though the final didn't really go to plan, I had achieved my goal of actually getting to the final in the first place. Now, that race, the national 1500 final, was actually technically my last race under the full guidance of Ben Norton and the on-track running group, because a few weeks after that, I went to England and was coached by my cousin's coach, Dave Dix. He took me on for 6 weeks. I was only over there for 6 weeks, and in that time, I went from 3:44 down to 3:40. So with that, I would put quite a lot of the 3:40 down to being in the right race at the right time, but as well, there are definitely a few key sessions that Ben Norton gave me and that I was doing with the on-track running group in early last year that got me down to 3:44, and then also some really good sessions that I did with Dave Dix and my cousins in England that got me down from 3:44 to 3:40. And it should be noted as well that when I ran that 3:40, my PB at the time was 3:44, so I took 3.5 seconds off my PB in that race. And so I think it's fair to say that the sessions I'd been doing probably leading up to nationals with the on-track running group and then in England as well, they definitely were paying off. All right, the first key session that I want to talk about is Ben Norton Special. This definitely, I think, helped me achieve that World Junior qualifier. So just to remind you, at the start of 2018, my 1500 PB was 3:54, and then I ran a 3:47 1500 that year to get the World Junior qualifier. Unfortunately, didn't actually make the team because I didn't run well at nationals, but The session is known as Griffins in the on-track running group, and pretty much you run an 800, you then have a 1 minute recovery, you then run a 400, you jog straight over to the 200 start, you run a 200 hard, jog straight over to the 200 start, and you run another 200. So with that, it's an 800, a 400, a 200, and a 200. You walk the recovery between the 800 and the 400 for 1 minute. You then do a 400 hard, jog straight over to the 200, do a 200 hard, jog straight over to the 200, and do that again. And with that, it's 1600 meters. So basically it's a mile, and you're trying to run at your 1500 or your mile pace. So that is a really tough session. Usually doing that, we do one set of that, maybe two, and then usually a set of 400 hard, 200, 200. So the same thing, but just taking out the 800 at the start. But definitely having that 800 in there at the start, even though it is very, very tough and quite tough, like mentally trying to do more than half of your race at race pace, is tough, but really good for strengthening you. So doing 800, 400, 200, 200, two sets of that if you can, is a really good session to start off with. And definitely if you can get through it, it will really definitely help your 1500. All right, the second key session that I wanted to talk about is a Dave Dix special. I'd never done this before. I went to England and did that 6-week stint in England last year. And this is another really hard one. Even though this doesn't sound that bad, it is quite a tough session. So essentially the session is 4 by 600 at your 1500 pace, and you actually get a 5-minute recovery. So with that, 4 by 600 is 2.4k, a mile and a half at your 1500 pace, and you get 5 minutes recovery in between every rep. So it's enough to kind of recover, but when you're actually doing the session, even though it sounds like 5 minutes recovery would be really nice and you'd be fresh, ready to go every rep, it does actually get quite tough. So for me, in England, when I first did this session last year, I was a 344 1500 runner still at the time, and I think I averaged about 129 or even 130 for the 4 by 600 reps. So with that, I was pretty much bang on 345 1500 pace the whole way through, 5 minutes recovery. And so with this session, you definitely should be trying to hit about your 1500 pace the whole way through. And if you can get through that, 2.4k of running at 1500 pace, obviously you've got quite a big recovery all the way through, but if you can do it, you're definitely going to be in great 1500 shape. And if you are aiming to run 4 minutes and you run 4 by 600 at 4 minute pace, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, you probably can run a 4 minute 1500. So if you can, give that session a go. All right, the third and final key session that I wanted to mention is not really in itself a specific session because it can vary quite a lot. But essentially what it is, for me, I really like doing some sort of tempo run followed by speed reps on the track. So tempo runs, if you're not familiar with them, you're basically running at a pace where you're running quite hard, but it's not an all-out effort. And if you're in your base building phase or even during your track season, they're such a great way for you to build and maintain fitness. They can be quite tough, but they're just so good for getting you fit and strong. So pretty much with this session, it can vary quite a lot, but something that I've really enjoyed getting into, especially going to America and being coached by Coach Jay Colacius. We love doing like a 2 mile tempo or threshold run followed by speed reps on the track. So right now, I'm looking at a key session that I did in England 12 days before I ran 340. So June the 17th, 2019, I ran a 2 mile tempo, 5 by 400 and 4 by 200. After the 2 mile tempo, I had a 5 minute recovery. So quite a big recovery, pretty much full recovery. You feel quite good, especially because you haven't gone super hard in the tempo. And then 5 by 400 with a 1 minute recovery between them, followed by 4x200 with 2 minutes recovery. So the tempo, as I was saying, great way to just top up your aerobic fitness. And then some quicker reps in the 400s, followed by 4x200 really hard, is such a great way to kind of, you pretty much like cover all bases in that session. So you're getting your aerobic work in with the tempo, some kind of speed endurance with the 400s, and then proper all-out speed, running some hard 200s at the end. And just for reference, when I was in pretty much 340, 1500 shape, I did my 2 mile tempo in 10 minutes flat, 5 minutes recovery obviously, and then 5x400 in 60, 60, 59, 60, 59, followed by 4x200, 27, 25, 26, 26. So the main part of the session in terms of 1500 running is definitely the 400 reps. Obviously the 200s you can go pretty much all out, and the 2 mile tempo you should be just going a pace where you feel like you're working a bit but it's not super hard. And for me, the 400 reps were pretty much, give or take, 1500 pace. So 60, 59-ish is about 345 or just under 1500 pace. So pretty much overall, it was very close to 1500 race pace. So anyway, with that, that is it for the key sessions. Bear in mind, as I said at the start, I'm not a proper coach. Even though I do have a coaching qualification, you should definitely be careful with all of these sessions. You know, you want to make sure you're doing what's right for you, and all of these sessions will work differently for different people. So just be careful with that. And obviously when you're doing these sessions, you probably want to make sure that you've built up a decent aerobic base. You don't have to be a huge mileage person, but you want to make sure that, you know, you're running a few times a week so that doing these sessions aren't going to be a real shock to your system. And as well, obviously, I've only mentioned kind of 3 proper key sessions in this video. There's a whole lot more that goes into it. So if you want to see what I get up to on a daily basis, you can follow me on Strava at AdamFog. There's a link down below in the description as well. So if you want to see all of my training, I post everything on Strava. I don't have a problem with anyone seeing my training. And so yeah, if you want to see more of it, follow me on Strava with the link in the description. And anyway, with that, I'm now going to commentate on my 1500 340 PB. So stay tuned. Just for a bit of background, this race was in June 2019 in Watford in England.
Doyle, Fogg, Curtin, Shelley, Hussey and Young.
Alright, so this is the 2019 Watford British Milers Club Grand Prix 1500. I got into the top race, and 2016 Rio Olympic 5K finalist Andy Butchart was in this race. He's a New Balance athlete, sponsored by New Balance, an Olympian, so he was the hot favourite going in. As I mentioned before this race video, I went into this race with a PB, a personal best time of 344.06. So I'd run 344, and I knew that this race was basically going to be a great opportunity for me to try and improve upon that PB. And so I pretty much just got in and tried to hang on to that pace. And you can see me there fairly far back in the pack, and I'm wearing a red and yellow singlet with black half tights and white Adidas spikes.
So I'm sure plenty of his friends and family will be there on that grassy bank cheering him on.
Alright, so we ended up going through the 400 mark in about 60 flat, which is 345, 1500 pace, and I was quite a long way back, so I knew I had to move up. I went through the 300 mark early in 45, and so I didn't really get off to as quick a start as I wanted to, and you can see me there, I'm still quite a long way back. I'm slowly trying to work my way up through the field. We're coming up to the 700 meter mark here, and I go through in 144, just 144, so that's quick, but it's not kind of quick enough. So I knew that I wanted to really have a go at breaking my PB, and so I tried to pick it up, and I go through 800 here in 158, and I'm now going down the back straight. I've got 700 to go. I'm working my way up through the field. I can see Andy Butchart. Andy Butchart is now just in front of me, and so I'm really trying to work my way up through the field and finish as high up the field as I can in as quick a time as I possibly
all have his eyes on
can.
the scout they'll be looking to claim. .500 metres to go. It's still McMurray who leads though. Butcher now moving around the outside to overtake McCann and move into second. A new athlete in the picture is Adam Fogg, who Alex spoke about in depth before the race. McMurray leads at the bell though. And Butcher has work to do. It's McMurray, Butcher, Fogg.
Alright, we've now got 350 to go, and I am on the shoulder of 2016 Rio Olympic 5K finalist Andy Butcher. I still remember this feeling. I did not know what was going on. It was a really weird feeling being on his shoulder, and I remember with the bell lap, we went through in 2:42, and I knew if I could close in 60 or under, I'd smash my PB. Here with 150 to go, I was really starting to feel quite tired. Andy Butcher had put a bit of a gap on me, but I really wanted to finish as quickly as I could for a good time. And coming into the home straight, I was really lactic, really kind of feeling the burn, and I ended up bringing it home. I get overtaken on the line, but I still finish in 3:40, a huge PB.
Next week on a FOGDOG exclusive.
Welcome back to another episode of the FOGDOG exclusive. Hopefully another good video today. I'm racing an 800 tonight, so I'm quite excited for that.
FOGDOG is back on the track for his first official 800-meter race since June 2019. His PB currently is 152.7, and he thinks he might be able to break that.
Go on,
See all of this and more next Thursday, November 19th, 7 p.m. Central Time.
Go Adam!
Only on the FOGDOG exclusive.